Hey, sexy people, you are listening to the Living Better podcast, the podcast aimed at improving your life with tips, tricks, interviews, and much more. I am your host, Matt, and with my wife, Jody, we will share a life experience and dig up the best information we can find on improving your day-to-day life. So let's get right into it, and as usual, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, and welcome to Living Better Podcast, Ep.7. And today I'm going to give you my top 10 best books to read. Books that have changed my life forever, and I'm sure you can gather some knowledge and insights out of them that will be applicable to your life right now. So today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. So you just go to audibletrial.com/living and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. You just have to download a free title and you can start listening right away. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/living. This is pretty awesome as an offer. And for our listeners of this podcast, you guys get to download for free any of the books I recommend here. However, this offer is for Americans mainly, so keep that in mind. What's awesome about audiobooks is that you can listen to them while doing cardio at the gym or commuting to work. People, they always say that they don't have enough time to sit down and read books. Well, this is the solution for you, and something that I've been using myself for many years. I'm sure you're going to love it. It's like having someone read you a story, but it's a great book. So my first recommended book is the Tao of Seneca. So Seneca was a prominent Roman philosopher and playwright who published several essential works about Stoicism. He is considered one of the three key Stoic philosophers, alongside with Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and Seneca counseled Emperor Nero, and he was credited with rendering Stoicism more accessible to a larger audience than his counterparts. So the Tao of Seneca is an introduction to Stoic philosophy through the words of Seneca. If you study Seneca, you'll be in good company. He was popular with the educated elite of the Greco-Roman Empire. Thomas Jefferson also had a copy of Seneca's book on his bedside table. A lot of leaders in Silicon Valley have realized the benefits of Stoicism, and NFL management, coaches, and players alike from teams such as the Patriots and Seahawks have embraced it because the principle make them better competitors. Stoicism is a no-nonsense philosophical system designed to produce dramatic real-world effects. Think of it as an ideal operating system for thriving in high-stress environment. What I personally like about Seneca's work is that you can take from his letter whatever you want and apply it immediately to your life. His advices are very practical. So my second book that I'm going to recommend to you is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was written by Dale Carnegie and published in 1936. Since then, over 15 million copies have been sold worldwide, making this one of the best-selling books of all time. In 2011, it was number 19 on Times Magazine list of the 100 most influential books, proving that this book is as effective now as it was in 1936. This book will teach you how to improve your social and communication skills in ways that will not only make you more likable, it will make you more successful. It's really the only book that you need to be more successful in life. If you want to have only one book, this is the one to download or to buy. My biggest takeaway, however, was learning how to communicate with others in a much more meaningful and deeper way. I used to think that it was important to do all the talking and try to show people how smart and special I was. But in this book, Carnegie taught me how to shift from talking to listening, interjecting at times to ask very genuine and deep questions, and then sitting back to listen and learn. What this does is that it fosters an environment of giving others as well as significance. You also learn much more when you listen rather than speak. Overall, this book was extremely influential in my life, and the principles are applicable to achieving success in many different areas. My third book is Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning was written by Viktor Frankl in 1946, and it has sold over 10 million copies and has been translated into 24 languages. According to a survey conducted by the Book of the Month Club and the Library of Congress, Man's Search for Meaning belongs to a list of the 10 most influential books in the United States. This book chronicles Frankl's experience as a prisoner in the Auschwitz concentration camp during World War II and describes the psychotherapeutic method he used to survive his imprisonment while his parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished. Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how we respond to it, and we can use our experience to move forward with renewed purposes. So I highly recommend that book to everyone. It's really a great book on how to thrive in a hard environment. My fourth book is called Breaking the Cycle by George Collins. So I began studying addiction and realized that while fortunately I was not abusing drugs, there was several areas of my life that had become compulsive. Among these were alcohol at some point, food, especially like the fine dining and stuff, traveling was a form of escapism, and even when in my younger years, pornography was something that I was abusing. So I was extremely fortunate to find George Collins' Breaking the Cycle, and it's one of the most powerful books I have ever read in my life. While this book is focused on helping those who struggle most with relationship and porn addiction, it is applicable to helping you reclaim any area of your life. Collins draws on extremely powerful concepts related to our own thoughts and our mind, and he has taught me critical concepts to help me accept myself, let go of past shame, and convert my unhealthy subpersonalities into healthy and productive energy. He also taught me the critical difference between sex and intimacy, and this is an extremely important concept that many people in our society, including my former self, did not understand. As also explained in the Tara Brock podcast episode, The Realm of Hungry Ghost, Working with Attachment and Addiction, most of us have something, or in my case, multiple things, in our life that are compulsive and harmful to us. Things that we use to feel better in short term rather than face and move through the pain in our life, often triggered by our careers, relationship, families, or other stressors. So I highly encourage you to read George's book and be honest with yourself about what behaviors you could be letting go of so that you can start living the life that you deserve. Number 5, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was written by Stephen Covey in 1989. And since then, it has sold more than 25 million copies worldwide. The audio version of this book became the first nonfiction audiobook in the United States, publishing history to sell more than 1 million copies. In this book, Covey argues against what he calls the personality ethic, found in many self-improvement books, and he promotes what he calls the character ethic, aligning one's value with universal and timeless principles. Your values govern your behavior while your principles determine the consequences. Covey presents his teaching in a series of 7 habits, progressing from dependence through independence on to interdependence. So you will be forever changed by the powerful lessons contained in this book. My number 6 is Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Awaken the Giant Within was written by Tony Robbins in 1991 and has sold over 2 million copies since then. In this book, Robbins provides a step-by-step program teaching the fundamental lessons of self-mastery that will enable you to discover your true purpose, take control of your life, and harness the forces that shape your destiny. Robbins argues that it's not what we do once in a while that shapes our life, but what we do consistently. In essence, if we want to direct our lives, we must take control of our consistent action. If you are looking for a blueprint that you can follow to start taking control of your life and improving your relationship, work, and finances, this book is the one that I'm going to recommend for you. My number 7, this is an amazing book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. This book is pretty much where it all started for me. For those of you who aren't familiar with Tim Ferriss, the best way I can describe him is as a traveling and money-making life hacker. He owns his own podcast called The Tim Ferriss Show, and he was my number one inspiration to start my podcast and break free from what society has made me believe I needed to do. Tim has opened my mind to many more possibilities and different ways to do things. So if you're looking at expanding your knowledge or possibilities in regards to starting your own business, or even just working on monetizing projects to earn extra income, this book is really for you. As Ferriss told stories about working remotely and traveling the world as his own boss, I was instantly hooked reading that book. For instance, he talks about subcontracting work that you don't know how to do or not very good at doing to other people. And that's really awesome because there is great services online like Fiverr or Upwork. And those services are amazing because you can find talented people for cheap that will do the work that you don't want to do. So it could be anything from reviewing your school projects to designing logos or editing a book you wrote or designing a creative artwork. Basically, all those services, you can find anything and people will do it for you for very cheap. So once I understood that, I got everything I don't want to do done by others. And it saves me tons of times that I could use drinking fine wine with my wife. So I totally recommend that book. It's going to open your eyes to many more possibilities that you were blinded to. My number 8 book, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. The Success Principles is a collection of 64 principles that Canfield uses to show you how to take 100% responsibility for your life, achieve your goal in life, and much more. Using these principles, I was able to get really clear on what I am actually passionate about in life, and that it was time for me to start making a transition professionally and align my ambitions and desires with my own little projects. One of Canfield's exercises required me to make a list on my phone called Things I Love. So every time I did something that lit a fire inside of me or got me really pumped up and excited about life, I would add it to the list. So over time, while looking at that list on my phone, I could really see the areas or things that I love, and that allowed me to make a certain shift in my life towards those things that I love the most. However, Canfield's principles are broad-reaching and can benefit everything from your relationship to physical wellness and beyond. So this is a great book. Number 9, Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. Attached is the best book I've read on understanding why we choose relationships that we do. Understanding your attachment style will dramatically improve your intimate relationship success. We often choose our partners unconsciously and for all the wrong reasons. So this book describes 3 attachment styles. 1, the secure style, which is 50% of the population. They're comfortable with intimacy and usually warm and loving. The second style is avoidant. It's about 30% of the population. That equates intimacy with a loss of independence, and they try to minimize closeness. And third, the anxious style. It's 20% of the population. They crave intimacy, but often they're preoccupied with their relationship and tend to worry about whether their partner loves them back. So by understanding and owning up to your own style, as well as learning how to choose a secure partner, you can enjoy a lifelong relationship success. And lastly, my number 10 book is called Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. Tara Brach, Radical Acceptance, is another fantastic read related to improving our experience of life. Very often we remain disconnected from our body and our emotions using a host of strategies that we think is helping keep us safe. On a subconscious level, we think we're protecting ourselves from pain by staying out of touch with our emotions, but this is actually very detrimental. If someone asks how we're doing, we often just say, "I'm fine," but we're not really in touch with what's actually going on inside of us. And when we can face or move through our painful feelings, they often build up deep down and then manifest in other unhealthy ways. In addition to trying to avoid painful feelings, we also subconsciously stay disconnected based on a fear that by facing the truth and even accepting ourselves as we are, that we'll stay stuck where we are. However, as Carl Jung famously said, it is only when we learn to accept ourselves exactly as we are that we are able to change. Brock also draws on important concepts of self-compassion as a way to feel your feelings in a safe way and accept yourself without judgment. Practicing techniques from radical acceptance has allowed me to accept who I really am. For a long time, I lived in a state of unhappiness where I would tell myself that once I have my own successful business or once I have a certain amount of money, then I would really be happy. And for a long time, I did not accept my current situation and felt very incomplete. So once I put radical acceptance to the test and fully accepted who I was in that moment, I realized that these goals were actually fun opportunities to work towards and not the things that I needed to achieve in order to be complete. And that's a wrap, guys. So I hope that you like the books as much as I did. Seriously, if you can read them all, awesome. Or if you can just pick a few out of the selection I got for you today. They're truly life-changing, and I believe that reading books is something that you should keep on doing after you finish schools, because there's so much valuable content and insights and tips and tricks and everything in there that can help you in your life right now. So if you can read a book a month, a year, a week, try to read all on those self-improvement books. There's many great authors out there. So yeah, that's a wrap for the books. So I'm going to put links to every single one of them down in the description, most likely on YouTube. And once again, this show is brought to you by Audible, and Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. So you guys just have to go to audibletrial.com/living for the Living Better podcast. And you download a free title. So pick anything you want and you can start listening right away. This is a great way to get one of these books that I suggested today and have someone narrate the book to you while you're busy doing other stuff. So really, you don't have anything to lose. You try it out. If you like it, you keep your subscription, or if you don't, just cancel it. There's no trap, there's no string attached, and you get to keep the book. So this is pretty awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap, and thanks again for listening to the Living Better podcast. See you next time. Ciao.